Welcome into Emerald and Lilywhite, the official YouTube channel of Seattle Spurs. It's episode 32. We keep climbing over here. Lot to talk about today. Lots to talk about. We're going to briefly touch on Newcastle, which hasn't happened yet. We're going to talk Liverpool. We're going to talk Tamworth and the FA Cup. And then we're going to talk transfer rumors because it's January. And I know there's those out there who feel like they don't want to talk about anything until it's official. But in my opinion, here at Emerald and Lilywhite, we're all about cooking rumors up and spreading them out to the masses. So we're going to get into some transfer stuff too. Before we do, let's take care of some housekeeping stuff. I'm your host, Scott. As you know by now, you can find me at Scotchy Bird. With me as my co-host, you know by now as well, Max at Going Limbs. Max, what's up, man?
Not much. Big win over Liverpool. So that's exciting. And we finally have something positive to talk about on this podcast. Feels like it's been quite a while, but actually not just one thing, multiple things to talk about positively, transfers, matches, etc. So yeah,
no doubt, man. Glad you're here. And with Max and I is the third member of the standard trio these days, Robbie at Robbie_Light. What's up, Robbie?
Yeah, exciting. I watched the entire Liverpool match on my work computer in a work meeting with the volume off, minimized in the lower corner of my screen. 5 days a week in office again. So gotta watch Spurs wherever I can.
If Jeff Bezos were to buy Tottenham, do you think he'd let you watch matches?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's a good question, though. We'll have to figure out.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, let's get into it. I know we want to talk very briefly about Newcastle. I'm actually going to pass this one over to Robbie because Robbie had the primary bullet point here when it comes to Newcastle. Probably not a whole lot to talk about, but Robbie, what's that one point that you thought was worth talking about? And I agreed.
Yeah, I think just because of what happened in the Liverpool game, not much to go back to on Newcastle other than Brandon Austin. Not bad. That's my summary. Like, he did pretty solid job considering he's never played a single game for Tottenham Hotspur in 9 years or 8 years or whatever it's been. Not bad. I liked what I saw. It was all we could ask for.
I agree. I think if he ever were to decide that he wants to play football regularly, he could probably find himself an opportunity somewhere in the lower divisions of England, maybe the Championship or something, right? Based on that performance and the idea that he's been an understudy to some pretty good keepers over the years at Spurs. If he decides he wants to make $780,000 a year, which we have done the research here at Emerald and Lilywhite, that is his annual salary. If he wants to make $780K to just fuck around with the boys at training, then more power to him. I can't fault him for that either. So we'll see what happens with Brandon Austin. All jokes aside, I do think maybe the one other talking point here is that handball, Max, that led to their equalizer. Obviously, we had a little bit of help in the Liverpool match, so I'm not here to like cry woe is me or anything. But my question is, do you think that's a handball? I mean, that's kind of chaos to it, maybe. But what's your take on that handball that led to the Anthony Gordon equalizer?
Yeah, it's definitely a handball.
Yeah,
it's always been a handball. And it led directly to a goal, so it's definitely a handball. Not much else to say. Like, whatever, I guess. I don't know. It was clearly a handball.
Yeah, I think kind of just a mess that culminates to a Brandon Austin who's never played for Spurs and two teenagers being involved in that play as well, right? Brandon probably doesn't need to go short in that situation, right? And then I believe it was
Sarr. He made a terrible pass to Bergvall there. And yeah. Bergvall couldn't do anything except just try and tap it around and just handballed it, dribbled it with his hand to assist their wonderful equalizer in like the first 10 minutes of the game. So whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, kind of beat the momentum up, but whatever. As we've all said, there's bigger things to talk about.
We've moved on. Yeah.
The league is just a training exercise for cup matches, in my opinion. So we're going to talk about Liverpool, fellas. The first thing that I want to talk about, we can't talk about Liverpool without talking about Toni Kinsky, the new man behind the post for Spurs. And Max, I'll come to you briefly for this. What'd you make of him? I'm going to keep it open-ended and give you the floor, man. But what'd you make of that debut from young Toni?
I mean, I think it's the best debut I've seen for Tottenham, period. I can't, I'm not going to like, I mean, maybe Steven Bergwijn if you want to like throw that out. But in terms of first games and performances and the magnitude of the game, like unbelievable. Like it's actually unbelievable. Like he got signed 2 days before our biggest game in 3 years, and then was clearly man of the match in my opinion. Obviously Bergvall got the goal, was really good too, but I think Kinsky was for sure man of the match. Made a spectacular save at the end there amongst 4 or 5 other I can't remember if he had 5 or 6 saves. We kept a clean sheet. When's the last time we kept a clean sheet? I think it was against Man City, which feels like it was a decade ago at this point. With his feet, unreal. His distribution is just stupendous. I can't say enough good things about him. He just seems so confident, and he was catching corners. He was catching some corners. Big deal for us here at Tottenham. And I think I'm just going to say it. Best debut I've seen since I've been a fan of Tottenham. And if this is the peak of his career, then honestly, that would be fine, because like this is one of the best goalkeeper performances I've seen for Spurs. And he's only 21, by the way, so he could play goalkeeper here for the next 15 years if we want him to. And I kind of think that he's gonna be the starter next year.
I think that's an interesting point, and I want to talk about that a little bit more. I've got some information that I can share just from my time sitting around reading articles this morning, right, on Kinsky and the long-term future. But before we get to that conversation, which again we're going to get to shortly, Robbie, I want to come to you as the resident vibes guy, the resident fan vibes guy. That moment with Kinsky, it turns out it was his sister, right? That I don't know. I know you were at work, so you maybe didn't see this, but he had just a really nice, heartwarming moment in the stands, which I thought maybe girlfriend, then mom for a second. I wasn't quite sure, right?
I think it was a combination of a few.
Yeah. But I know he mentioned his sister in a post-game presser, right? But for his family to find out not only that he was going to be on the bench, but then like 24 hours prior that he was actually starting the match, and then to scramble to get over here from the Czech Republic and be there for that moment. What'd you make of that for the youngster?
Yeah, no, and I saw I saw multiple of his post-game interviews, but the one he did, I think, with like the Tottenham media crew on the field, on the pitch side, that's where he clarified that was my sister. But he was just like, yeah, she's been the one that's been supporting me from day one. She's literally my number one supporter, my number one fan. She's at all the games. She's always watching. He made a few comments of like he had low points and she was there to pick him up. He didn't obviously expound on that. But you love to see it. What I want to know is like, well, this is the other part of it. Beautifully filmed. I don't know who filmed it. Someone got this video. It's a beautiful angle of it. But in the video, you also see Kinsky's dad holding his phone furiously, trying to find the camera app, and he like can't find it because he's trying to take a picture of his children. You see him like panicking, and he like can't figure it out. But luckily, someone got this like beautiful 4K video of them hugging. There's also like 6 other incredible videos from the game. I think I sent you guys the one where it's like a 2-minute slow-mo of the Bergvall goal, start to finish. And they put some really funky like 70s music underneath it. It was an incredible video. Spurs content team on fire right now. Also today, they posted a video where they stopped every player coming into the training ground and asked them how tall they were and then measured them immediately. I don't know if you guys saw that video.
I didn't see that.
I didn't.
But they called out a couple of guys of like panic hit their face when they're like pulled out the tape measure and they're like, all right, you say you're 6'2", let's figure it out. It was really good. But yeah, Spurs content in general, all over all good stuff. And then even in another interview that Kinsky did later with Dom Solanke, he was just like deflecting all praise and was like praising Dom Solanke. Hearing a lot of stuff from I listened to the Golden Guest podcast too. They mentioned that he obviously speaks very good English. I made the comment to you guys. I was like, and this is no slight at Vicario, but I don't think I've ever heard Vicario speak. Like, I don't even know what he sounds like. And I think maybe it's because his English maybe isn't as up to par. Maybe that's incorrect. I don't know. But Kinsky's already given killer interviews, having great insight. Sounds like the players already love him a bunch, like love him. And the last piece of vibes I'll touch on, the entire Slavia Prague team watched the match together. They like got together to watch his debut. The Slavia social team is like posting stuff from the game too. So it sounds like we got another feeder club in the works to go with Djurgården, I guess, where we've maybe are going to form a relationship with someone to send some kids out on loan or something. But we've got everyone behind us from Prague, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. This kid seems like he's just highly regarded and loved by his teammates, which makes a big difference. We got to go back to Max's comment that he may be the starter next year, because I don't think that's a super hot take, if I'm completely honest. I personally feel that when it comes to shot stopping and his footwork, I think shot stopping is equal at best, because I think Vicario is a phenomenal shot stopper.
I think Vicario is better.
I would agree with that. We've seen Kinsky in one match, but I would agree with you that
Vicario's reflexes are like insane.
Dude, nuts.
Yeah.
Vicario's a very good keeper. I think Kinsky is probably equal or a little bit better with his feet. I probably better.
He's miles better in my opinion.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
He looked good, really good and composed in a big match. But where I think Kinsky can actually earn that number one shirt is commanding the box on defensive set pieces. I think if he can show that he's got that on lock, then he can very well be our starter next year. If he doesn't have that, I'm not willing to put money on that, but I think he doesn't have to work super hard to do that in comparison to Vicario. And no disrespect to Vicario, but he struggles there. So, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts, Max? Elaborate on your thoughts that he could be the number one.
Well, I agree with you about he just looked better on set pieces, although I think Vicario's improved slightly this year from last year. Mm-hmm. I think the main thing is the build-up play. Like he was playing like a sweeper. It just helped our defense so much. Like it actually makes like an astounding difference for our build-up, like when we're in possession and defending. Because like he's skipping a line. He's not putting all the pressure on Dragusin, who can barely make a 10-yard pass to build out. Like he can skip that and go straight to Porro accurately. Yeah. He can play it long. There was this ball he had first half to Son that was over the line. It was like Ederson, Allison. That's the quality that we were looking at with those long balls. And he's only 21. And I think it is underrated how good a good keeper with his feet is to help our system, because when you have like a third guy back there that can make those decisive passes, and then it's going to be even more insane when we have Romero and Van de Ven back, especially him and Romero back there. Those are two guys that I genuinely trust to like ping it all the way to Brennan Johnson, release him. Yeah. Like we don't have that guy in Vicario, and that's no slight to him, but that's just not the profile he is. I think Kinsky fits the profile like a Ange, I guess, type goalkeeper that is perfect in the system and then plays up higher and bring the ball up higher. Like he's not just scared and staying in his box all the time like Vicario. And I just think he's the truth. I think he's so good. And I think we have a little bit of a Ramsdale David Raya situation on our hands right now, which, that's a good thing in my opinion. So,
yep. Yeah. Fully agree with everything you're saying. I got no concerns. I did read that there was an article in which Petr Cech talked quite extensively about Kinsky, and Petr says that Chelsea have been tracking him for a long time, and he essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but has told Chelsea they need to sign him. Petr sees him as very much the future of Czech football, and obviously now the future of Spurs football. That article also addressed his agent, and his agent talked a lot about what it took to get that deal over the line. I guess they were working really hard on it on New Year's Eve on the 31st, right, is when the bulk of these talks were happening. And he said that Daniel Levy actually personally flew to Prague to handle those negotiations with Johan. And so it's evident to me that this is somebody who the club felt they had to have at all costs. And then I also read something that Ange was planning on activating that decision in the summer, but with all these injuries, they decided, probably 6 weeks ago to start working on figuring out how that was going to happen. So interestingly enough, it sounds like the second Vicario went down, they started figuring out what it would take to get Kinsky in this winter. And we heard a lot about, we trust Big Frazier, but you have to say that in the press, right? Nobody's going to say, yeah, the dude fucking sucks and we're working on his replacement right now. You're not going to say that. So, credit to the club for getting this kid in. And the last thing I'll say is credit to Kinsky himself, because to come in that type of moment against probably the best attacking team in the world at this point in time, I would say, and that's going to ebb and flow, but at this moment, probably the best attacking team in the world, in Liverpool, in a massive semifinal match that has to be won for the sake of maybe even Ange Postecoglou, probably not, right? But I don't think it's crazy to say that. For him to come in that big of a moment and take the stage he was given and absolutely boss it is just amazing to see. He's obviously a mentality monster, and I'm super excited about this kid. I would have no problem if we decided tomorrow that he was the number one. Wouldn't have a complaint. So anyways, credit to Kinsky. Let's move on to the rest of the match. Robbie, I'll come to you. Obviously, there's a lot we're going to talk about when it comes to the goal and the refereeing decision that is just talked about ad nauseum in the media right now. But before we get to any of that, I think maybe my first question is, Spurs got the result. What was your take on the performance itself?
Yeah, I think, I didn't have any audio on, so I wasn't hearing what the announcers were saying, but it was a very slow defensive game the whole game. Either that or the teams were just low in energy. I think that's not what the case was.
Maybe a combo of the two.
Liverpool came out with pretty much their starting 11. There was only 2 changes or something that maybe and Jota comes on every 70th minute and scores a goal. So can we really even say he's a weaker player for them? Yeah. And then I can't remember. There was maybe one other player or Diaz came on later, right?
I'm trying,
but they pretty much started their guys, and the fact that Tottenham doesn't have their guys very obviously for most of their positions, and one was they were holding their own for 90% of the game. After about 50 minutes, I was pretty much convinced this was going to be a 0-0 game, and I was like, "That's awesome. That's fine with me, honestly." I think that. No, this has been completely overshadowed, I think, because of the Bergvall situation. But the Solanke goal being offsides by a fucking fingernail is just maddening. Ange went on to say stuff in the post-game press conference, and he said this since he's been here, that we're ruining football with all these replays and splitting hairs on all these things. And I hate the offside rule more than anything. There was no way that was an advantage for him to be an eyelash offside or whatever they ended up determining. So the fact that we did end up scoring a goal and winning was rewarding, because if that goal would have been called back and we would have lost, that would have drove me mad. That we lost because the Solanke goal got pulled back. But yeah, it seemed like Tottenham overall, a lot of people, and Ange's refuting it, are saying, hey, you adjusted your system. You played more defensive. We kind of leaned on the counter attack, which is how both of those goals happened. Not most likely, but the Bergvall goal felt like a counterattack. It wasn't quite a counterattack, but it was worked out from the back. But it just felt like it was a super long pass from Porro. So it was kind of like a fast break, I guess is a better word for that.
Football, I think. Still,
yeah, long balls, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many things I could talk about. I think if I had to think of one thing to talk about for other than Bergvall or what happened, would be Jed Spence just putting Mohamed Salah in his pocket. And I don't remember seeing Mohamed Salah on the TV at any point of the game.
He made a really good pass to Darwin that he should have scored. But other than that, it was nothing. It was literally nothing.
He was very quiet.
So one of my buddies who's a United fan made a comment saying that Liverpool losing to a defensive pairing of Dragusin and Archie Gray is criminal. And I was like, he didn't even mention that we have Jed Spence, who barely has played this year and was also playing out of position against one of the greatest wingers in the world. Just a lot of things came together, which only they can in a Tottenham Hotspur way, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you started to talk about what I wanted to come to Max with, and that is the shape that we took, our tactical approach to this match, which was quite different than what we tend to see under Ange. And I think we talked about it on the show that we kind of expected that, right? We don't think Ange is a stupid guy, and you can't just walk into a frying pan in a League Cup semifinal. So, I wasn't shocked, but what do you make of the way that we approached that game tactically?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was perfect. I thought he got it spot on. Yeah, we settled in a textbook mid block, which is exactly what you want to do against Liverpool. High line against Liverpool, we're getting fucking destroyed, and we already saw that this year when we held 6 to them. So we did the mid block, and we intended the double pivot of Basuma and Bentancur, and obviously Bentancur gets concussed. Hope he's doing okay, because that was pretty scary. But yeah, he gets concussed, and then we get Bergvall, Basuma with Kulu in the middle, which is what I would have wanted at the beginning of the game, because I think like Bergvall, his work rate incredible. Like he was pressing brilliantly. We should have scored off him pressing on that Porto opportunity, but he's also just a great defender, and you love him as a box to box because he's going to do the defensive work and then create multiple chances like we saw. So I thought that was perfect. Zero inversion from the fullbacks at all. You can't invert against Liverpool. They're going to destroy you. If we had Spence inverting against Mo Salah, it's GG for Liverpool. So no inversion, and it worked like a charm. Like Pedro Porro playing like those diagonal balls from a more out wide position was really threatening. And I just think tactically it was perfect. If we had like better wingers, I think this game could have gotten out of hand. Honestly, we were good, and I think we were really good, and it never felt like it was kind of slipping out of control. We started really nicely. There was some momentum for Liverpool at times, but they had a couple chances, but it was nothing ever too clear cut. And I felt like it was a balanced game, but I did feel like we had the edge overall from a tactical standpoint. So I think Ange outcoached Slot, and this is the kind of football that I'd like to see out of him.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a big flex from Ange personally. I don't think Ange is a stupid guy. I think that the way we approach the league versus the Cups is very strategic. We've talked about it on the show before that maybe there's some idea that Ange is using the league to continue to build to the system that he eventually wants. And even though these are secondary options for us, they're still part of the team and need to understand the system. So you just keep playing the system and keep getting the reps. And then the cup competitions are results over performance, right? And I'm okay with that. I don't think we were going to win the Premier League this year. Now, again, we can't be relegated, right? There has to be some balance and some sense here. But I've said it a couple of times. If you give me a League Cup and a Europa League and we finish 17th, it's the greatest season in 20 years for this club, if not more than that, right? So there's all kinds of things to play for, and Ange showed me very much though that he's equipped to win things at Spurs, and that he's a smart tactical manager for sure, which I think the question has been asked for the last 15,000 years in the media. Does Ange understand how to have a plan B? And yes, he does understand how to have a plan B. So I was super happy to see it. I want to talk about Bergvall a little bit more. Not only was he fantastic in the midfield, like you said, Max, him and Kulusevski both really impressed me because there was a lot of interchange between those two. Kulu was actually getting a little bit deeper in the buildup and allowing Bergvall to press on transitions, I would say, probably, right? But I think Kulusevski really – maybe we should talk about both of them. First, I'll say Kulusevski really allowed Bergvall, I think, to have the game that he did. And Bergvall just showed us that he is – every bit the player that Barcelona was desperate to sign and saw as one of their future midfielders, right? So I think we just have to talk about him for a bit. I'll open up the floor to you, Robbie. What'd you make of Bergvall's performance?
Yeah, no, I think we've seen this with multiple players this year with Tottenham, whether they're 18 years old or not. Dragusin, you can throw in here too. It's hard to remember that these are children. He's 18 years old. Like, he's so young, and he's going to need time to develop. He hasn't played in any other league except for the Allsvenskan league, which is nothing compared to the Premier League. He was going to have his bumps and bruises. He's still going to have his bumps and bruises. He's not going to be perfect every game. But yeah, I think the thing that we also forget about is, like, he's huge. Like, going back to that video where they were measuring, like, he's 6'3". He's taller than Kinsky almost. Like, when they were measuring him, he was almost taller than Kinsky. Or, like, they were very close in, like, the 190 centimeter realm. And, like, he's a big dude, and he's going to get more physical with age, bigger with age. It seemed there was a couple, I think one of the highlights I just saw posted today on Twitter was like a sliding interception of a pass in the box that he like knocked out. Like, he's figuring it out. He's getting more playing time. People were definitely very angry earlier in the year that he wasn't getting enough time or he wasn't playing enough. I don't think we'll never be able to point back and be like, well, this was the wrong choice. It's just his journey is his journey. But we see the bright spots. We see this performance yesterday. We'll get to the card stuff in a minute, I'm sure. But I don't know. Again, I think all signs are pointing up. I've been excited about him since day one. You guys know my bias towards Swedish players between him and Kulusevski. So I'm excited for what the future holds. And I think yesterday was a great beginning to hopefully his next 10 plus years of lore with Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, Max, I'm not even going to ask a question. What do you want to talk about with Bergwall?
I mean, yeah, he was unbelievable. Like, he was the best midfielder in the game, in a game with like Gravenberch, McAllister, etc. I thought he was much better than Kulu. I thought Kulu was actually not good at all, to be honest, especially in the final third decision making wise and just like technique wise. He's obviously exhausted. I think if we had James Maddison in there, it could have been long for Liverpool. I think Maddison would have suited that game really nicely. But Bergvall, yeah, it's unreal from the 18-year-old. The technique on his finish is actually insane for him to do that one time with pressure with Virgil van Dijk closing in on him, for him to use that whippage on the near post is low key. That's insane. Yeah. The confidence to do that in that type of situation, unbelievable. Yeah, he just ran the game and he played really well against Newcastle as well. And yeah, he got stuck in as well. So you can't ask for much more. And all I know is that this is his coming out party, and he is going to be a regular in the team from now on, which is what we've been asking for since August. And there was some lulls. Should he go out on loan? My opinion was he should if he was not going to play. But now, due to the injuries, he's got his chance, and he's taken it because he is one of the best young talents in the world. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a huge point right there. That without these injuries or suspensions, both, right? I don't know if he's getting these opportunities that he's gotten as of late. And I agreed with you that the loan seemed like the right move, but some of the best players in the world got their start because of freak incidences and showed what they're able to do. So I'm super stoked for Bergvall. I agree. I think he's going to be getting a string of starts throughout the foreseeable future. I think James Maddison is probably sweating a little bit, and I'm not saying that Maddison shouldn't be playing when I say that, but just what I'm watching and observing as a fan is that James may be sweating a little bit because Bergvall is a real deal. I'll stick with you for a second here, Max, too. After the game, Ange had an interesting interview with Troy Deeney, which I was really impressed by. I thought Troy was super fair and just it was a nice breath of fresh air from the typical bullshit we see when someone's talking to Ange after a match, right? But Ange points out in this interview that and I think Troy actually brought this up, but Ange points out that he was forced to play with 3/8 in this match because of what was available to him. And I think Troy had just mentioned or pointed out that he had seen a tactical adjustment in the midfield from him, right? And Ange said, yeah, there was. And I was honestly forced to play 3/8 because that's all that I had available after Bentancur came off the field. And then Ange said, it wasn't necessarily the plan, but there's a lot that I can learn and take away from that experience of having 3/8 in the midfield. So I think a couple of things. It's interesting to hear just Ann say that in general, but my biggest takeaway is that he sees Bentaker as a 6, I presume, and he sees Basuma, Bergvall, and Kulusevski as 8s, leaving Sarr as presumably an 8, and then Madison as his only 10 in his mind, I would assume, right? I thought that was fairly interesting.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that Basuma in that game, like he was clearly the 6, though. Like he was clearly sitting deep.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like a reluctancy to have him in that role or what, or if he sees him as an 8. I think, to be honest, we have no 6s besides Archie Gray, because I don't think Benjaker is a 6 either, and I don't think Basuma is a 6 either. But they've kind of been forced into that role, so that is interesting. I think that Bergvall has really shown that he's like a true 8, like a true box to box player.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought he was more of a 10, but it's clear he's an 8. Kulu obviously is an 8. Sarr is like a textbook 8, and then Matters is like a 10. He doesn't have the work rate. So I think that within the system, I think Ange is starting to figure out something that where we lack like defensively, especially when we're caught out, especially with the fullbacks, we need to cover for them in the midfield, whether it's the center back shifting out wide and then the 6 or 8 shifting into the middle. We need coverage, and we need players who are going to fill that box to box role. So when you have 3 dudes doing that, that's just a lot better defensively than when you have 1.5 players getting back. So I don't know what this means for the future of James Maddison. I think against better teams, he might be getting phased out a little bit, because I don't think his attacking creativity outweighs the defensive work rate of like Kulusevski or Bergvall, because those 2 players can also attack. So it's going to be interesting what happens with Madison. I honestly wouldn't be opposed to putting Madison on the left wing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially if Spence is going to play non-inverted much of the time, which I don't know if that is a plan, but if Madison could like invert the left wing, that would be interesting. So I think that is interesting. I think it's kind of Ange hinting at he wants all 3 of his midfielders working back, because that will help us defensively a lot. And that was definitely
100%.
proven in this game. So,
yeah, these are great points, man. I completely agree with you. I also think it's interesting to think about Madison as somebody you can play up top. I think if you can't fit him in up top, I hate saying this, but you maybe think about what you could get for him in the market, right? If you're not going to use him up top. I think we maybe are starting to get to that point. As crazy as that sounds, I think when you're in these projects, you have to make just like hard, unfavorable decisions sometimes, right? And I think he could end up being one of those if they don't find another spot for him, because I agree with you. I think Kulusevski and Bergvall are becoming undroppable. I think Kulu needs a rest, but you guys know what I mean by that. And then I think Sarr is right there on the heels of both of them. At the 6th position, I'd be perfectly fine moving on from Basuma, Bentaker as well, but Basuma first, personally.
Basuma was so good in this game.
He was good, man.
We kind of glossed over it. He was so good. Like defensively,
he was
amazing. Yeah, he was amazing. Yeah.
He was good, man. I agree. And I think maybe my concern with him is more of the consistency.
Yeah, no, it's only against the good teams. And then the other games he's switched off and gets red cards and whatever. So
yeah, and I think I favor Bentaker to him as like a backup, not as the 6, right? But because Bentaker just gives you a nice, cool, calm. I mean, maybe he can make some rash tackles too, but overall, I think he is able to come in and slow the game down well. And sometimes you're going to need that, but we need a 6 that's not one of those 2 desperately, in my opinion. We're going to talk about that in a second. We maybe already have one in the form of our 18-year-old center back.
I think they're both gone, to be honest.
Yeah,
Gray should be the 6 and like win. And I think like this center back stint has helped Archie so much, because I genuinely think that when Mickey and Romero come back, that Gray is going to be the 6. Like there's absolutely no reason that for the next leg of this tie, that if we have Romero and Van de Ven, then Archie Gray should 100% be the 6. And I think everyone in the fan base would agree with me on that.
And the
one.
manager. I mean, his defensive acumen is. I said on a different podcast a couple days ago, I said Archie Gray is definitively our third center back, in my opinion, right now. After Romero and Van de Ven, Archie Gray is the next person I trust in this system. Now,
and then fourth is Spence.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm playing.
Fourth for me is Davies, and then Radu.
Yeah.
Which I will say, Radu had a pretty good game, and I think
he played great.
He was amazing. But same against City. Anytime we decide to block, Radu's going to play well because that's what he does. That's
his
well.
thing, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like having
goal line clearance, bro. He loves a goal line clearance.
Dude, honestly, I said this a couple of days ago, and I'll ask you both this question. If Romero and Van de Ven are both available next leg of this competition, is it crazy for me to think that I maybe prefer Radu and Van de Ven as a center back pairing in that match, or am I just fucking stupid for saying that?
I think you might be a little bit stupid.
I mean, the only thing I would say is obviously Romero doesn't keep his cool sometimes, and maybe we don't want him to get carted out of a game when we're trying to win a tie. But
yeah, I think that I think that we could do a Van de Ven at left back play though.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, we don't want his hamstring to pop again immediately. So
I mean, yeah, that's true, but like, we gotta play him, right? Like we gotta like play him. So if we really want to get Radu in there, then that would be what we would do, because we saw that against City twice. Both times we played City, we had Van de Ven at left back, and it's kind of a similar scenario. But yeah, no, I just don't trust him on the ball enough. Like, I think if Liverpool really decides to press, that could get ugly. But not if Kinsky's there, because the difference between Forrester and Kinsky is like light years. It's not even remotely
Kinsky will be there. We know Vicario won't be back on the 6th of February or whatever.
With Kinsky there, I just feel way more comfortable telling Radu to just defend and then just like clear out when we have the ball. Kinsky can take the ball at the top of the box. You don't need to be doing this.
Yeah, I mainly asked that question because I low-key don't trust Romero and Porro in a defensive block.
That's what I'm like.
Yeah.
What if we had Radu, Romero, Van de Ven, and then Spence at right back?
I like that a lot, man.
I feel like that's lockdown. If we, personally,
my only pushback is, I think when you're going to look to have opportunities to counter, you maybe want Porro in the side.
That's true, just because of the passing,
ball playing ability.
Yeah, but Romero, I mean,
true. Yeah, Romero can handle that as well. So yeah, I mean, the nice part about this is Ainda's going to have options by the time we play Liverpool.
And with Gray at the 6, we might not need Draggers in there because Gray will genuinely act as a true 6, which we've been missing.
Great point. Dude, Archie Gray is the man. He is.
That one clip, the Travella, when he intercepts the pass in his own box, destroys Gravenberch, who is on the ground flailing with a hezzy, dribbles past another Liverpool player, and then perfectly Travellas it into the path of Brennan Johnson. It was unbelievable.
Brennan, yeah. Can't say enough about Archie Gray. All right, before we move on from this match, we're finally going to get to the elephant in the room when it comes to this one. That's the Bergvall non-call followed up by the goal, right? But Robbie, I'll come to you for the first question here. And the first question is, do you think that the first yellow card was actually a yellow card when he took out Luis Diaz?
No, absolutely not. And again, the amount of things that happened in this game that left you saying, if this were Tottenham, Basuma got carded for simulation. Like, if a Tottenham player does that, the Tottenham player is getting carded for a yellow, 100%. You cannot convince me otherwise. Tottenham always is on the other end of that stick. And yeah, it was you can very clear. I don't even think he even touched him, right? He didn't even make contact with his body on that.
Yeah. Okay, I fully agree. Obviously we've heard all kinds of discourse around this. And before we move on to Max, I know you said you had maybe some words to say in general, and I think some of this maybe comes from the fact that I know you're buddies with some Liverpool fans, and you probably hear all kinds of bullshit. But yeah, I'll give you the floor to talk about this one for a second.
Yeah, no, I think for Liverpool fans who are losing their mind over the fact that he was still on the pitch when the goal was scored, like, I literally want you to just sit down and shut up. Like, the amount of things, not only in this match alone, there was like 7 cardable things that Liverpool got away with. No card at all. And then Twitter did the work for me. You can go on the internet and see from every single Tottenham Liverpool match, there are images, slow-mos, videos of all of the things that Liverpool has done to Tottenham players or have taken advantage of and have not been called. My favorite one is the Jota cleat to Oliver Skipp's face, who looked like a rugby player from 1936 with a bandage cap on the rest of the game. And then he went on to score the winning goal. Things happen. Things get missed. Things don't get missed. Whatever happens, it's over with. It's done. And the other piece I'll get, not even just the like, hey, stop whining and complaining piece of it. Ange went on to then destroy a Sky Sports reporter who said, didn't you get lucky this weekend? And he said, no, it's literally the rule. The rule is if you are playing an advantage, you do not give a yellow card out to someone. And I guess there was some evidence later suggesting that maybe the ref didn't clearly say it was an advantage or something. I don't know. But he was like, we have been burned by this like 6 times this year. I have been yelling at refs all season about it. And every time they've told me this is the rule. And then it happens in our favor for the first time. And it is what it is. Like, it happened. It's over. I do want to give a ton of credit to Arne Slot, who was like super mature about his answer. Yeah. He was literally like, this was a good goal.
After the fact.
Yeah, he definitely
in the moment
the field was whining and complaining. But he basically was like, yeah, they scored a goal. They deserve to score a goal, blah, blah, blah. And then he was just kind of like, it is what it is. You get things that go your way. Sometimes you don't, like, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And Ange has been on record saying that too, of like, that's part of the game. We're trying to police the game too much. We're trying to watch replays in slow motion for 17 minutes. We're trying to give someone's eyelash offsides on a goal. Shit happens. And yeah, if we can just rewind it to the beginning, the first yellow was not a yellow. Absolutely insane. So maybe in American sports, we would call that a makeup call, perhaps, or something along those lines. But yeah, like, no, the amount of things that Liverpool have taken advantage of and benefited from over the years is a list a mile long. And we haven't even talked about the Champions League final armpit ball. But like, Jesus Christ, relax. You're Liverpool. You've won 1 million trophies. You're one of the best teams in the league. You lost 1-0. You couldn't score a single goal on a 21-year-old who came to England 3 days ago, and a backline of teenagers and out of position players. Don't know what to tell you. Like, it was 1-0. That's what I got to say.
Yeah, that point you just made is what I wanted to come to Max with. I think if Liverpool don't want to lose that game, Konate should not get bodied by Dom, like absolutely bodied by Dom on that goal, right? They should track back on Bergvall. They should find a way to create more opportunities for themselves. It's not this non-call that led to Liverpool losing this match, right?
Nope. Konate shouldn't have played. Like, if anyone watched the United match, he was atrocious against United, and he's just coming back from injury. And it was evident that he was a step behind the entire time. And then when him and Trent came on, they were like trying to go for it, I guess. That was when we scored the offsides goal. That was when, because Dom got in behind, and it wasn't just Van Dijk there. It was Konate as well. And Dom got in behind and finished it. And then the other goal where Dom clearly bodies Konate and makes a brilliant pass to Bergvall there. It just wasn't good enough from Liverpool. And all that needs to be said is, like, Lucas Bergvall did not do enough in that game to warrant a red card. Thus, he did not get a red card. That's what it is, and that's what happened. And it feels like every other club is like, imagine if that was Arsenal. Like, Liverpool are bad enough. Arsenal, the biggest whiners I've ever heard. And like Liverpool, I think, have a little bit more grace to do it because of the Luis Diaz game last season, which was genuinely the worst call in VAR history, probably, because he just wasn't offsides. He was on by every metric, which is bad. But it's just these teams, like, I feel like our fan base, the Newcastle handball happened. We were like, whatever, should have been a handball. We lost the game anyway, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day we're on to the Liverpool game. These fans are just relentless, man. And the media and it's like Jamie Carragher. And it's just it's too much, man. Just let it go. You lost the game. You got outplayed. He didn't do enough to deserve a red, and Tottenham win 1-0.
Yeah, or at the end of every season, they release those data points where it's like teams affected the most by VAR decisions, and Tottenham is always the number one team on the list of like points lost because of VAR overturned whatever decisions. And again, some of them were correct calls, some of them weren't. Everyone was sharing the Lucas Moura handball screenshot on the internet too, where he literally tripped and fell onto a ball.
The Eric Dyer handball, that one,
yeah,
or he went up for a header, but. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then the last piece I'll say, we didn't even mention the fact that Tsimikas was whining like such a baby that he had to get taken off the pitch. And when that goal was scored, they were down a man because Tsimikas was still on the sideline. So the Bergvall goal happened again. If he could have, like any respectable player, should have gotten up when he realized he wasn't getting the call and started playing some defense, or got back into the game. But then he was mealing it for so long. They're like, you have to leave the pitch. So again, self-inflicted wounds. You play what you got to play. It happens to everybody. And honestly, it happens to Tottenham a lot more than other teams. There's literally data to prove it. Like I said, at the end of the year, they always release that stat of like points affected by VAR, and Tottenham's always number one on that list. So one thing went our way.
Yeah. People talk about like a bias against Tottenham in England, and everyone will say, oh, conspiracies, blah, blah, blah. The entire country is wide open about the fact that they are biased against Spurs, right? The media just eats us alive. I watch and consume a lot of football media, and they will actively try to either avoid talking Spurs or just battering Spurs every time that Spurs come up, right? Regardless of the network. The only network I got to give some credit to is ESPN and ESPN FC specifically, right? There was a really good discussion about this Bergvall handball, and their take was essentially that, sure, the call maybe wasn't correct, but things go wrong in football, and Liverpool can only look at themselves in the mirror and say that their poor performance beat them. And then they close it out by saying, and the first yellow card was not a yellow card. So end of discussion, right? It was the one piece of media that didn't want to go, take Spurs to the coals on this one. So I appreciate them for that. But yeah, ultimately Spurs are always going to get ripped on. We know that. And, whatever, us against the world, I guess, if we want to say so. So yeah, credit to Ange, credit to the squad, Kinsky, Bergvall, everybody, the referee for getting this one wrong. We appreciate everyone who contributed to this victory, and we'll roll on and forward. Speaking of which, we got a big one against Tamworth. I always want to say Tamsworth, but it is Tamworth FC. When we played Marine a couple of years ago, Marine AFC or whatever, I was like, this is awesome. I love this little club and wish them all the best. But Tamworth put out that video of Tottenham get battered everywhere they go, and we need to go beat them 15-0 just to keep them in their place. They're a non-league side. I personally feel like we'll see a lot of rotation in this one. Probably not a lot to talk about, to be completely honest. There's a lot more going on. There's a North London Derby next week, right? But Tamworth, again, as a non-league side, Max, I'll come to you. I'll just ask you, what do you think the lineup's going to be? What does your 11 look like?
Yeah, I think it'll be a mix. It's going to be Kinsky or Austin in goal. I don't really care which one.
I'd like to see Austin personally.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine with me. Kinsky will definitely play against Arsenal. So
yeah.
Yeah, we could throw Austin in there. I think Dorrington's got to get a chance, right? Like he's been on the bench for so long. So Dorrington, and then I don't know who the other center back is going to be. I think it might be Dragozin, but I don't want it to be Archie Gray specifically. So we'll see about that. I doubt it's another academy kid there. And then I think Regulon is definitely at left back.
Yeah.
I personally want to see Leo Black at right back. I think it would be a good opportunity for him, and that's a position that we haven't had the chance to rotate very much, fullback, and I think he could do a job there. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Spencer Poro there if it requires it. In the midfield, I would like to have seen Tyrese Hall, but he got injured today, so that's not happening. I think Sarr and Madison will both play because they missed out. And then at the 6, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with Tyrese Hall out, but we could, I don't know, we could just throw Basuma in there or something.
Is there a world where you can play Sarr at the 6 and have Olasise get an opportunity?
Yeah, that would be cool too. I would totally support that. Olasise has been on the bench for a number of these games, so I would be cool with that midfield. But yeah, Sarr would definitely have to drop deeper. And then up top, the front 3. If it is not this 3, I am going to be so mad. If it is not Mikey Moore, Will Lankshire, and Yang Min Hyuk, I am going to be livid. There's no reason it should not be that front 3. Lankshire hasn't played in God knows how long. Yang just come in, perfect game to make his debut. Probably gets a goal or two, if we're being honest. And then Mikey Moore, perfect game to come back from his illness. If that is not the front 3, and I think would be an electric front 3, not just in this game, but potentially against like a relegation side. Like if we played that front 3 against Southampton, I think they would do bits. So that has to be the front 3. If that's not the front 3, if Timo Werner is in this fucking game, I am going to be so mad. I'm going to be so mad. And I already know he's going to start. I already know he is.
I was going to say, I think there's a...
He got subbed on over Yang and Moore. Who the fuck wants that, dude? Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. I just don't get it with Ange. I don't get his obsession with Timo, man. He's just not good.
I can somewhat see bringing on Timo for his pace in that match on Wednesday against the Liverpool side who was chasing the game a little bit. I can understand that. I think against Tamworth, I was going to say there may be a Timo Werner shaped disappointment coming your way.
I am going to be so mad.
But
if it's over Yang, oh my god!
I think it might. I think it could be over Moore because I'm just not.
Then I would be less mad. I think Yang that's my number 1 player that I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah, I agree. I think I could see Timo, Lankshire, and Yang as the front 3 because I just think I'm going to assume Mikey just came back from mono is what I'm going to assume at this point, and that's no fucking joke. So I don't know. I could see him coming off the bench. He's got to get some minutes in this one. This is just an excellent training exercise for him, or at least it should be. I also would just close this lineup conversation out by saying, yes, we should be able to rotate. Yes, our U21 could probably beat Tamworth, but we have to be somewhat careful because, like, if you rotate like 5 or 6 players and they're all either guys who don't play a ton or are U21 guys, that could make for just somewhat of a disjointed mess amongst that 11, right? Like that's where I say like you may even be better off just starting the U21 side rather than like intermingling all these pieces, right? Because there's some cohesion there. But I just also don't want to see a world where we tinker too much and we look absolutely fucking lost and then end up in a nail biter with Tamworth, right? If we got knocked out of this cup, I would be furious. I was asked if I would rather lose against Tamworth or Arsenal, and I said I'd rather lose against Arsenal if I literally had to pick one because I'm just kind of over the league, and I would be furious if we got knocked out of the cup at this point, right? So anyways, we just need to be careful. Robbie, as the vibes guy, what are the vibes looking like walking into a match against a non-league side? Are we feeling good? Are we nervous?
Well, you've heard me say this multiple times. Tamworth has a pretzel in their badge, and that's just insane to me. I don't know why. They're a British team. Why is there a pretzel in their badge? I don't know, but it's sick, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If there's one thing, this is what the media, the online Twitter sphere is this is the one thing about Tamworth that they are trying to instill fear in us on. Apparently they have some 40-year-old dude who works a part-time job who can throw an insane throw-in long ball.
I saw this.
I am prepared for a goal on that. They're going to score a goal on us on a long throw-in. So get ready for that, guys. That's the one thing.
Lead to 9-1.
Yeah, and they are apparently, I guess England uses the term a 3G field. I don't know, that must just be what they call turf or AstroTurf in England. But this is an artificial surface that they're playing on also.
They were making it sound like that, like the press was making the artificial turf sound like the worst experience ever. Like every MLS team plays on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I don't have an opinion on the lineup other than these are the players that they don't need to play a single fucking minute. They better not play a single fucking minute. Son, Solanke, Kulusevski, Gray, do not play a single fucking minute, please. Please do not play them for even a minute. We have other options. Those are my four.
Please. This is a rest day. Just fucking rest them, please. God.
Yeah, if any of them play, it means we're in trouble against Tamworth. So, well, for the
long throw in goals happen.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not Kinsky, Then
if it's Forrester, then it's absolutely happening for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Love you, Big Frage. All right, we'll wrap up for the next 10 minutes or so with some transfer rumor stuff, guys. We're getting a little long here, but the first thing I want to talk about, Goal.com is reporting that Spurs are in conversations for Johnny Cardoso. We've been talking about a 6. That could be kind of an easy one to just throw some bullshit against the wall when it comes to a report as well. So I don't quite know, but Max, I'll come to you. You think there's any fire to this rumor that Spurs may be interested in bringing Johnny in this January?
Yeah, I could see it happening. I could see it either way, January or summer. Not really much to report. It would be cool if he came in this January, but I think it's just more likely in the summer because I think they'll move on from both Basuma and Bentancur if I had to guess this summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fully agreed. Robbie, Goal.com is reporting that Spurs are no longer pursuing Marcus Rashford. There were rumors that we were interested in setting up a loan for Marcus Rashford. Looks like that's off the table now. It looks like AC Milan could be where he ends up. But would you be begrudged at all if we didn't bring Rashford in, or is that just kind of one of those faint rumors that we never took any stock in?
Yeah, that's just another name that I would put with why am I blanking on his name? Jack Grealish. Of like, there's no way we would ever make a move for someone like that. I never even considered it a possibility, so I didn't even. I saw that and I was like, yeah, of course we're not. I was like,
the Sounders were linked to him.
Yeah, the Sounders were linked to Rashford.
That'd be cool. All right, I think that the meatiest one here that we want to talk about.
Oh, here we go.
Milane, right?
Which I just opened Twitter and there's an update there, but we can wait if we want.
Breaking. What's that?
Breaking news. Sky Sport is reporting Kolo Muani prefers Juventus.
Interesting. I'm not super surprised. I mean,
oh no.
Yeah. I think he's a good player. I think that Juventus offers him much more opportunity to walk in and be an asset right away. Look, from an article.
I have breaking news.
What?
Andrew Postecoglou confirms Antonin Kinsky will start versus Tamworth.
Oh shit! Okay, all right. It's Kinsky. Maybe Kinsky's just gonna play till Vicaria's back.
Kinsky.
Let's go. I mean, it makes sense though. Keep betting him in. Keep getting him settled into the system, right? So yeah, cool. Kolo Muani. The report on Goal.com states that Ange thinks he's a player that has power, pace, and dribbling ability, and would see him more as a wide player, with Richie coming back to supplement Dom, right? So it does look like Kolo Muani's on our radar to play at the wing position. I think he's good enough. I don't know if he takes us exactly where we need to be, but if he keeps Timo off the pitch, then I think that's a positive as well. But yeah, if he's interested in Juventus, I can't blame him. we also know Man United is very much interested in his services and is in conversation. But frankly, if I have the chance to go to Turin right now or come to Spurs, probably going to Turin. And I hate saying that as a Spurs fan, but I think he walks right into that Juventus side and probably just gives him the type of football that's a little bit more aligned to what he's good at. So we'll see. But the other thing to point out here, Johan Lange is just an assassin that works in the shadows, right? So I don't know if we're going to see a ton before things happen, and I'm cool with that for sure. The only other thing that we're seeing, actually, there's two more things that we're seeing. One is just super faint, so I don't know if we need to talk about it too much. But again, Goal.com reporting, or sorry, this is Football London reporting that Tottenham are weighing up the approach of Liam Delap, striker from Ipswich, who comes from the Man City Academy. I think he's got a super high ceiling. So
that'd be crazy.
If we're actually weighing up in a conversation there, I think it's exciting. But again, these are just very faint rumors right now, and I wouldn't bet on it by any means. And then the last thing, Football London also reporting that Spurs are talking with AC Milan about Tomori. I can't remember his first name.
Fikayo
Tomori. Thank you. I think he gives us
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think he gives us a good, solid center back, which is
homegrown.
Homegrown. He's definitely strong with the ball at his feet. And I believe he'll have some familiarity with a few of the guys on our squad, too, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think it'd be a really good signing for Spurs, and I hope that's – if I had to pick a next up, it's probably a winger, but shortly after that would be Tomori for sure, getting him in. So I'd really like to see how that progresses, but that's really it. Is there any other rumors that either of you have seen that you want to talk about?
Not really. I just say, Tomori, Delap, and a winger. That would probably be a 10 out of 10 window for me.
Yeah.
I do want to say Colomwani. I'm just going to get my take off right now. I don't think he's very good. I don't think that he would be very good at Spurs. I don't think he's the type of winger that we want at Spurs. Yeah. And I think that would just be the wrong place to spend that money. And an expensive place because it is more of a high profile name. I just think that there's better options, and he's kind of like, I'm kind of just disappointed that he's the main winger link that we're getting right now. So, I'm just putting down my flag. Not on the Tomori Island, I am on the Tomori Island, not on the Colomwani Island.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because like we said, we really haven't signed anyone under this new regime that there was any smoke to before the signing was announced, right? So I'm not sweating any of this. I think we could very well sign a winger who we haven't heard anything about. The one thing I will point out when it comes to the wing position, and this pisses me off, but it looks like Mbeumo is in concrete talks with Arsenal, and I that's one that I think we should just be all over. I think he's a solid profile.
Didn't he renew his contract?
I'm not sure. Brentford? I just saw something on Goal.com that he was maybe in talks with Arsenal, but yeah.
Man United have joined the chase for Mbeumo also.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I think he walks into 17 out of 20 Premier League sides as a starting winger. I think he's very talented. So, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. But I think that's it. I think that'll wrap it up for Transfer Talk. Briefly before we wrap, of course, we got to give some love to our partners, and we want to do that by bringing you the Academy and the Loan Watch, brought to you by our partners at the Wits End, Rainier Growlers, and Cascades. Max, what do you got for us there, if anything?
Yeah, Derby County Academy defeats the U21s today 2-1. Goal from Damola Ajayi. Tyrese Hall comes off injured, disappointing because he maybe could have seen minutes on Sunday. The real Academy Watch is going to be on Sunday, so make sure you tune in for the Tamworth game, and we will hopefully get some Academy lads on the pitch, which is always one of the best times of the year when we get to see that. And then for loan, Jamie Donnelly, he scored 3 goals in 3 games and a really nice free kick, and he's just been flying at Orient, and he's really turned his loan around recently. So Donnelly, been fantastic as of recent.
Love to hear that, and obviously playing with Keeley down there, or maybe up there, the London-based Lane Noria, right? But yeah, love to see that. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us here at Emerald and Lilywhite, episode 32. Everyone, we appreciate those who have tuned in. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow Emerald and Lilywhite, but most importantly, it helps us grow Seattle Spurs, which is the point of all of this. Make sure you give all of us a follow. Again, you can follow me at Scott G. Bird. You can follow Robbie at Robbie_Light and Max at Going Limbs. You can also follow us at And Lilywhite on all social media platforms, and you can follow Seattle Spurs at Seattle Spurs across all social media platforms. And lastly, also very importantly, Seattle Spurs Gmail. Please sign up to the email list if you haven't already and you're a member of Seattle Spurs. You will get all kinds of information around matches, watch parties, holiday parties, all kinds of neat Spurs stuff. You won't have to scour the internet for things if you're signed up to this Gmail list. And we got to give some love to Steve for all the work he puts into that thing. Our fearless leader, Steve. We love you, man. But yeah, that's it for myself, for Robbie, for Max. We appreciate the time. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.